Now, Rankin, fabulous. The Rebus novels. I read a couple, actually, and they're brilliant because it shows that Scotland's not all about shortbread and tartan, you know, the sort of seamier underbelly of Edinburgh. But I've not read this one. This is not a Rebus novel, I think, so I shall look forward. Of the best-selling genres, crime fiction is the daddy of them all. In the UK, sales of crime have gone up by a phenomenal 80% over the last 10 years. I've come to Edinburgh to meet Ian Rankin, one of the best-selling British crime writers of the last decade. Crime fiction does sell by the... If it's good, sells by the bucket load. Why is that? Why are people drawn to these stories of kind of death and redemption?
Well, I mean, I do think there's a second golden age going on right now, that crime fiction seems to be, you know, taking the pulse of Western society, and maybe not even just Western society, just that's the only books I know. But, you know, if you want to find out about a country, the culture, the politics, what's right about the place, what's wrong about the place, what the people feel about living there, crime novels are about as good as it gets. When I started writing crime fiction, I wanted to write about Edinburgh, I wanted to write about society, I wanted to write realistic novels about problems in society. And I discovered fairly early on that a police detective was not a good way of doing that, the best way of doing that. Because cops, unlike any other character I can think of, have access to every layer of society.
You'll want to go home with her, Breg was telling Fox. Both men held plastic beakers of tea. They were standing in the family room. A pile of children's books had been placed on one of the chairs, and someone had pinned up a poster of a sunflower. Jude was seated a few feet away, head bowed, holding a beaker of her own. Water was all she'd asked for. They were waiting for forms, the forms she would need to sign. Vince Faulkner's battered corpse. Oh, it always has to be a battered corpse. In Scotland, of course, everything's battered. The work of crime writers, but all bestseller writers, is I think, denigrated by the literary establishment. Why do you think that is? Why is there the chip on the shoulder?
Crime fiction didn't do itself any favours, I suppose, by having lots of amateur detectives, you know, spinsters and titled gentlemen as main characters. You know, crime fiction started off very well in the UK and England with people like Inspector Bucket, Bleak House, or Wilkie Collins. But then we got the kind of Sherlock Holmes, the sort of brainy sleuth, and the forelock tugging police detective.
And then you're presumably you're talking about Agatha Christie.
Then you get to Agatha Christie with the Belgian gentleman with the wax moustache or the little old lady. You get Lord Peter Wimsey. And I think people love these books, they're still sold in the millions, but I think a lot of readers, especially in the present day, find that unbelievable or hard to believe. They find it hard to suspend disbelief that Lord Peter Wimsey could wander into a crime scene smoking a pipe or something, and they're not going, whoa, wait a minute, pal, you're leaving trace evidence there. Yeah. You know, and Miss Marple, excuse me, just go back to your house. This is a job for the professionals.
She's leaving sort of cake crumbs and...
Yeah, and she's a little old lady. You don't get invited into crime scenes, normally.
No. And one final thing, as ever, I'm going to make our most successful crime writer take a tour of the rack of yesteryear to see what influenced him to find his place in genre fiction.
Alistair MacLean did it for me big time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, immediately I'm drawn to things like Where Eagles Dare. I remember reading this when I was, 12, 13, and it was like Sex Education. I just stared at the back cover, and look at the embonpoint there.
Yes.
I would stare at that for hours on end, thinking this is a lady.
And so that's a lady.
That's what a lady looks like. Just remind yourself, Ian, this is what's coming to you in the next few years, you will.